Hi, Carlotta. Hi, Shanti. So I'm just waiting for Verlaine to join. Hi. Oh, yeah. Oh, yay!
Good
Can
morning.
you welcome?
Thank
Oh
you,
my
Jen.
God, this is so exciting. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Good
Mhm.
morning. Thank
Thank you
you.
so
Yeah.
much for doing this early morning New York time on a Saturday.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me. And again, sorry, we were supposed to do it earlier this week.
Yeah.
And as you shared, I saw on your post duty calls,
I
unfortunately.
mean, I had to be real with the people, with the makers.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
people come,
Work is,
is everything okay? I was like, not my work. It's fine.
yeah.
Everything is fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe just to get started, first of all, thank you everybody for joining us today. My name is Diane, and I am the founder of Makers Blueprint. And thank you for joining us on Makers Live today. So what is really Makers? Maybe Verlaine, you could tell me what you think it is, but for me, it's really a platform to share experiences so that people don't have to go through the same mistakes that we did. And it's not just for business people, it's for anybody trying to do something, right? So let's get into it. I'm so excited. I know this is your first IG Live. So just fun story, everyone. The other day when Verlaine couldn't make it last minute, she's like, oh, but if we could just do Twitter chat. I was like, no, this is not how this works. We're not on Twitter, first of all.
I know, I'm a big Twitter fan. I'm like Jack Dorsey team. Sorry. Yeah.
I mean, I'm a fan of Twitter too. It's just I like the video aspect. I think people, it makes people more real, and it makes people understand you better. So maybe I know you very well, and I will tell the story of how I met you, which is what, like maybe 3-4 years ago now.
Yeah, time flies, huh?
Yeah, I know, right? I feel like you've always been a part of my life. It's so fun.
Yes,
I know.
Yes.
We're like sisters.
And Diane, we got that connection.
I was gonna say namesake, sort of, Verlaine Diane. I know. So I met Verlaine maybe 3 or 4 years ago at the AU, I think, right? In Addis. And that's, maybe you could talk a little bit about your day job, UN, AU, but we met as Verlaine was starting with the AU's an organization called, not an organization, a network called Africa Women's Leadership Network, which I was very pleased to join as a young woman on the continent trying to do big things. And I got to meet really other young, interesting sisters from the continent. So maybe just tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll get into who you are, about that, and we'll get into your passion projects.
Great. Thank you so much, Steve. Well, I'm really excited and happy to be here and to join Makers. So you asked what is Makers. I think Makers.
What do you think Makers is? Yeah.
I think it's a picture of who you are, because I know you, when I look into my circle of sisters, when I think of you, when I think Diane, I know Diane is like this business owner. And I'm going to tell a quick story that will tell you what Makers is. I was going on mission to Addis like a few years after when we met, and I'm in my bedroom, long day, I'm tired, and putting television on, it's like 11 p.m. and I see my sister on a recording show. I don't remember which, it was like an international show, and I'm just like, Diane is on TV. So I pull out my phone and start recording, images and videos of what was happening. And I remember, I think it was about you, profiling you as an entrepreneur, showing the work you're doing as a business owner. And I remember you were like boss lady sitting at the table and having your team and discussing and exchanging. So for me, when I think of Makers, I think of you, and I think of that, this place where you have people coming through and exchanging ideas, and really business centered entrepreneurs, and really looking at how can we use innovations, for instance, like IG Live, I mean, I'm kind of old school. I'm here with my Twitter words, but how do we use new technologies and all of that to scale up, as entrepreneurs in Africa? And so when I think of Makers, all those images from knowing that you're my sister in business, and that, you have entrepreneurship and really scaling up and going to the next level. I think for me, that's what Makers is. Makers is about being next level.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I'm surprised you shared. I thought, okay, what you were talking about was an interview that I did with my former job. It's called Kasha. Kasha is an e-commerce platform for women, and I think that interview is on France 2. So you can check that out.
Yes.
On YouTube. First of all, that interview, anyways, that's another show. That interview was so special. But what I thought you were going to say was
the
this
boxing.
time we were in Addis, and you know, you were in, you're like, oh, I'm so tired. You know, it's been such a long week. I have to go to like get a massage. I was like, come to my room and let's have a powwow. And I got some other girlfriends in our sisterhood of Owlin, and we just, it's so funny because we still ended up talking about the problems on the continent and, you know, solutions and what we could do if given the chance, the opportunity. And I really wanted to thank you for, you know, even inviting me into that conversation, because I do think there's room for everybody, everyone from the continent, everybody has a different story, but also to bring business-minded people into what is usually like a really political conversation or dominated by civil society, which we need everybody, right? So I'm really so grateful to you for that. So thank you.
No, my sister, I want to build on that very quickly because I think it's very important. You know, Africa, everyone has their eyes on Africa now. You know, before COVID-19, if you remember, for instance, Jack Dorsey, my fake boss of Twitter, it's not my boss, but I'm using Twitter, I'm using the Instagram to make a call. Jack Dorsey, if you need a chief strategist on Africa, I'm here. But seriously speaking, you know, like you had all those waves before COVID-19 of people like big businesses, Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg was in Nigeria, Jack did a whole tour, he went to Nigeria, South Africa, Ethiopia, etc. And so you have all those external, you know, companies and businesses that are really looking because they know that Africa is the next big market, if not already the current one, you know, when it comes to new tech using, you know, cell phones, you know, to do e-commerce, you know, because we need to leapfrog in Africa. We don't have time to go through the second and third industrial revolution. We'll have to literally...
We're already on the fourth.
Exactly, we're already on the fourth. We don't have to go through the steps. So looking at how innovation and new technologies can really help us do that. And I think for us in Africa, we're missing the shot if we're not including businesses and particularly entrepreneurs like yourself, you know, who bring concrete solutions very quickly. You know, there's no administrative, bureaucratic slow down. There's no, oh, we need to review that and then make a procurement and then a process, etc., etc. So we really need to look at how do we put all those pieces together. You know, civil society is very important, particularly in our continent, because we have challenges. We know that we have governance challenges. We can look around what's happening. I don't want to cite any countries. We have Twitter, we have Instagram to know what's happening, but you know, we have challenges. So civil society is very important, but we need to bring in more in the private sector and see how they can actually, if not co-lead, lead, you know, and just to close on that, you know, when you look at governments and political spaces, are very important to create the necessary environments for private sectors to leapfrog, you know, maybe infrastructures, you know, how can you, you know, install, you know, services if you don't have internet, you know, if you don't have electricity, etc. So government would play a very key role to set up all those infrastructures, but private sector needs to be in the driving seat to be able to get to the next stage without having 1, 2, 3 steps and try to...
Private sector needs to come and think of innovative ways to reach the unreachable, you know, how do you reach the last mile? So yes, absolutely. I'm so glad you brought me into that conversation and everybody else who has joined. I can see Liz is on the call. You know, we need media. We need all forms of new communication to even, you know, to be able to talk about, to get the word out there, what we're doing. We're not working in silos, and maybe what works in Rwanda can work in another country, etc. So even the sharing of that, I think, is all very important. So maybe just, I don't know how much you want to share about Owlin, and maybe even how, you know, all the work that we're trying to do with COVID as young women, and we can get, just tell us a little bit about that.
Owlin.
We call it Owlin, but it's the Africa.
It's Owlin. Yeah, it is the name. Actually, we're discussing that this week. You know, the name, it's like a girl's name, Owlin. Like, what's your name? And it's Owlin, you know.
It's Owlin,
Yeah. So AWLN, it's, as you said, African Women Leaders Network. It's a platform. You know, it's a platform supported by the African Union and the UN through UN Women. But before that, it's a women's-led platform. You know, women are really at the center and in the driving seat of this innovative platform. And I think that's what makes the difference between Aulin and other, you know, institutional platforms, if I may say it this way. It's not in competition with civil society, because civil society, it's its own thing. And it's not an organization or an NGO. It's really a convening platform, you know, where you come together and try to look at what are the best solutions for Africa's transformations. We have so many documents, you know, when you look at the UN, we have the SDGs, and we have 17. I'm sure if you take a random person, and I always do that when I go home on the continent, you know, even if it's not my country, wherever. Before I go to a meeting, I always ask someone outside on the street, you know, a local, do you know the SDGs? Because, you know, for us, it's like international, we all know.
Yeah.
And 1 out of 5, they will know, but most of the time people don't know what the SDGs are. They're like, what is SDGs? So now you have that, of course, young people, because we're connected, etc. But someone, the shoemaker who's down the street, he doesn't know what the SDGs are, you know, doesn't know the 17 goals, etc. So we have a lot of instruments, and then we have the Africa we want, you know, Agenda 2063. Mm-hmm. So by the time you and I get there, we'll have white hair. Inshallah, I hope.
Let's just pray we get there.
Exactly.
Pray we get there, but pray we, you know, Africa gets there and reaches all goals. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So we have those great instruments, but where we fall short actually, and not only in Africa, everywhere. And that's why we have a lot of challenges and gaps worldwide. And we see all those social movements starting here. I mean, New York and the US, you can see what's happening around, you know, social, racial. I mean, I don't like the word racial. There's only one human race, but, you know, around those tensions, we're short, you know, when it comes to achieving the goals. And the African Women Leaders Network is about looking at how can we make sure that half of the continent's human beings, women, may they be young, senior, from the private sector, from political, can come together and deliver on this agenda, you know, because a document is as good as it is implemented. Otherwise, it's a piece on paper on someone's desk. So the idea with the AWLN is really to look at how can women can take ownership of each of the agenda and build a core implementation action around these two key continental and international agendas. So that's what AWLN is. And that's why we have a program on peace and security, on governance, on young women's leadership. Whoop, whoop, you're part of it, represent the caucus. Yep. Yeah. You know, on agriculture and finance also. You know, you're very much involved on the financing part. So this is really looking at all those elements, but bringing action. We're tired. I don't want 10 years from now again and talk about these things. You know, we need to make sure this happens.
The Africa we want wants action. It wants things to be implemented. Absolutely. Yeah. Okay, great. So maybe tell us, how did you, first of all, where do you even find the time for Zahara Dreams? I know people ask me that all the time. You have this day job and how do you do that? It's hard. It is hard, but you do it because you know, you see the need. Tell us a little bit about Zahara's Dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did it get started? Where did it come from? Why the name? What does it mean?
Yeah, thank you so much, Adi. I just on the first question you asked about how do you find the time?
Yeah,
I'm laughing because time, you know, actually I was reading Martin Luther King recently, and he said something very important. He said time is neutral. Time doesn't exist. Yeah, time is neutral. Time doesn't exist.
It's a social construct for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a social construct, and time needs to be used proactively, constructively, and intentionally. At least that's my take. Time will always be there, and the only reason why we see time passing is the cycles, you know, from childhood to now adulthood, white hair coming out, hiding it with a bandage.
Yeah.
But time is neutral. Time is neither on your side or against you. Time is just there. So I think
Liz is asking, when do you sleep? Verlaine, when do you sleep? I mean, first of all, Verlaine and I were up, you know, she was up early, but we were practicing to make sure the technology is working at 7 a.m. on a Saturday in New York. I mean,
yeah.
When do you sleep?
I don't sleep. I'm joking.
Coffee is your best friend.
No, seriously speaking, I do sleep. I have a very interesting sleeping cycle, if I can share that, I guess. I go to sleep actually quite early. You wouldn't believe it, you know. I go to sleep not too late. And I try to, I not try, you know, it's, you know, but then it becomes a habit to just wake up automatically. I usually wake up before sunrise, you know, always try to take a moment for myself. I have faith, I pray, you know, try to set my prayers and try to set my intention. But I think what is very important for people who are who have a lot of energies is to take micro naps. So I do take micro naps. I don't know if you do that, but sometimes
I
after
try.
lunch.
I do remember seeing an interview of Kim Kardashian, and she said she takes 4-minute naps.
Yeah, and it makes a
4
difference.
minutes.
It
Yeah.
makes such a
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, after lunch, I usually take, I don't know, 10 minutes, and it feels like I slept for long because it just regenerates your whole self, you know. And so I'm a strong advocate, and I would advocate, you know, naps not only for your child. If you can take a little nap, then it's
Let
good.
me tell you, I always tell my friends with kids, I'm like, naps are so underrated in childhood.
Yeah.
In adulthood, they're gold. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I take a lot of naps, but then for Zahara's stream, Zahara. Well, I have a shirt. I don't know if you can see it, but actually Liz was on the call, was with me when we were discussing. It says young women need 4 things: opportunity, of course, a role model, confidence, and a power jacket.
Yes.
Liz was here. She was here. She was with me actually when Liz was really the person who, she's based in New York, as you know, and she invited me to, I mean, Zara's Dream came, you know, of course, before I called Liz and I said, I have this thing I'm working on. But really looking at redefining a bit the core pillars of what Zara's Dream is doing now was really, and that's why I think one of the questions you have is about sisterhood, and that's why I want to stress no one is a lonely island. You know, you're not you because you're extraordinary. You're, you know, you're close to anything.
Because
You
people
are you
believe in
because
us
of
and they give us
people.
opportunity and they taught
Yeah,
us. Yeah.
exactly. So Zara's Dream started. I. You know, Zara, just to give a background on who Zara is, Zara used to be my intern. You know, we worked closely together about 4 years ago. I was myself just starting the work that I was doing at the AU. And, you know, young women, it's very difficult. Life is tough, you know, and particularly when you're a young Black woman, and even more so when you're a young Black African woman, because, you know, a young Black woman who is in another country may have different possibilities than you know. So recognizing that the challenge and really from my own experience was painful. You know, people, they see you today when they jump on the chapter of your life, wherever you are. If you're, what I mean, success, everyone defines success the way they want to, but if people perceive you to have success or to do things, they think that it's always been this way and that you're lucky, that's it. But the reality is not, you know. And I know you're an entrepreneur and you know the hustle that goes behind anything that becomes successful, you know. Even AWL, and nobody knows, I slept in my office to make that happen the first month before we even get to the forum, you know, in 2016. So looking at how do we get to that space of being empowered as young women. For me, it was a long journey and it was a struggle, and it was really hard, it was tough. And I remember my mom, my dad, you know, and that's where I want to credit my parents and my family, because they had always planted a seed in my heart of knowing the core of who I am, you know. So regardless of what the environment around me would be, no matter how challenging, no matter how difficult or painful, I would always go back inside to know who I am and where I'm going. You know, when you know who you are, you know where you're going.
Do you sometimes feel like the weight, like you carry the weight of the world? I know, I don't want to say I feel that way all the time, but I do feel, you know, there are not many young, I don't know if I'm still categorized as young, but many young entrepreneurs in Rwanda, for example, in the ICT sector. And a lot of what I've done has been in the ICT sector, because so there's a lot of encouragement for women in that sector. So you do feel like you can't get anything wrong. I think that is a part of being young. I think it's a part of being female. I think it's a part of being Black. I think, you know, we just feel that pressure of we must succeed at all costs. Do you feel that? Do you feel that pressure because you're at such a high level in your career?
Really?
But also, oh, also with, I mean, even just the access you have, etc. Do you feel like if I get this wrong, no other young person can ever follow me?
You know, that's a great question, Dee. And I think, you know, in life, when you go into a path that has not been walked before, because to be honest, when I did and started what I was doing, we didn't have all of what we have now. We didn't have a AU Youth Envoy. We didn't have a UN Youth Envoy. Youth voices were barely heard. Women's voices, not at all either. And I remember when I started, even, you know, conceptualizing with colleagues and working was also very difficult, you know, because you're young, you're a woman, you're Black, you have an accent. People are like, who the fuck is that person? Literally.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And sorry for my French. Sorry for the
We
cursor.
are. This is nothing formal. This is just
So
with
yes,
some makers watching.
so you carry a weight. Yes, you carry a weight that is almost like a chip on the shoulder, you know. You're like, ah, because you know that you need to make it happen, you know, because again, that depends on personalities. If you have a personality that's like, oh fuck it, I don't care, you know, then that's great. If you have a personality that's more like me, where, you know, you come into the world and you know that the world is not designed for you, that there's no space for you to exist in it, then you have the responsibility to, if you are in a position to make it happen, to push the needle forward. You have the responsibility to push the walls as far as possible. And that's where, again, you know, when it comes to what you were saying, I mean, about being, you know, together and sisterhood, that's where you have the responsibility to also bring others to push the wall farther, because you're not going to be able to do that alone. So yeah, I agree that if you are on a mission, because I think that's what we are, we're young women on a mission, you know, we're on a mission.
Yeah.
When you're on a mission, you carry a weight, you know, you're like, I can't let that. Yeah, you do, but you find ways to, you know, I have to say my weight has become lighter now, because not because I became more successful or anything, but because you measure things, you know, you understand that, okay, this happened and I don't have to carry it alone, you know. And that's a
I was
bit
gonna
what
say,
I'm
I
about.
think lighter for you because, and for all of us, because we have encouraged other people to join us, right? So now you have the youth envoy of the AU, of the UN. So you're not alone in those meetings. You know how they say women should be on the boardroom, and then you look around on, you know, in the board, there are 10 males that are like 60 something years old. But if you have another woman or another young person or not, you know, then you give in the playing field. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. It makes a big difference, because your mission becomes lighter. You have sisters, you know. I forgot who said that, but there's nothing more rewarding, more peaceful than being able to put your head on your sister's shoulders the day you feel, you know, tired. I mean, I cannot even count the days I don't know, I would, for instance, when I'm organizing a meeting and Aya comes in and I'm like, finally, you know, and I can put my head on her shoulder, because, you know, she's the AU Youth Envoy, and I know that the work she's doing and the agenda that she's leading is, you know, recentering, and I'm like, finally, she's here. And I know that, you know, because we have intergenerational issues, you know, we have to talk about that in Africa. So having sisters around makes it easier.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So Zahara, so back to Zahara's dreams. So where is this young lady now? How did she inspire you? You did say that you worked there 4 years ago. And before you had the conversation with Liz, what was forming in your mind that you said, I absolutely have to do something?
Yeah, Zahara, she's from Mali. So, you know, I said I hustled to get to my first steps. And, you know, when you're the unusual suspect, you get a lot of buttons in your wheels, we say in French. You know, you get a lot of people, because they're not used to see someone like you. They're not used to see someone who speaks up, a young person who's doing that, who's innovative and leading. And so it makes some uncomfortable, and that's been my journey. And it makes some uncomfortable, it makes some happy. You will have people who will support you, but you'll also have people who will try to stop you. for the simple reason that you are out of the ordinary, you are extraordinary, and in their mindset, you're not supposed to be there. You're not supposed to be doing what you're doing, or you're supposed to be on the sideline, you know. And a lot of people have the mentality, I was here before, and why is that you, blah, 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 without
Or it
realizing
was
that
hard for me. Why is it easier for you? And then they're a bit
exactly.
resentful.
Exactly, and it's not easy, but one thing I'm a strong advocate against is transferring pains and traumas. It's not because you suffered that you have to make
Absolutely.
people
Ooh,
suffer.
say that again.
It's not because
No
you suffered you have to
transfer
make people
of
suffer.
pains and traumas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because if you bleed, you're hurt, you bleed on others, it's terrible. You need to take a moment to heal. You need to take a moment to get that pain away from you. Otherwise, you're gonna hurt everyone around you. And that's been unfortunately part of my experience. You know, I've had women, older women, who've hurt me, you know, really, you know, like professionally trying to do things they're supposed to do.
Doing good stuff.
And yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
talk about that, and I know they know who they are because some follow me on Twitter, and I say it, and I don't care because I don't name, but I don't want that to be, you know, taboo in the darkness, because I don't want another young woman to go through what I had to go through, you know. And so I think it's very important to talk about that. And yeah, as I said, on your path, you'll have people who will try to stop you because they don't understand you. And John Lennon said, "Don't hate what you don't understand. You know, just try to understand. Try to learn from it." So Zahara Stream, that really came from that. From, you know, Zahara was my intern, and you know, the main engagement when I started was really the power jacket, because I realized how difficult it is for young women who come from difficult backgrounds to have access to professional clothes, you know, to go for an interview, or you don't even know where to buy your clothes. You know, they say, oh, get a suit, ta, ta, ta. What suit? And
Yeah. I know
yeah.
there are organizations in North America that like Dress for Success, etc. So I was interested to see. I actually brought my power jacket.
Yeah, spin it on.
The basic black. Everybody needs a basic black.
Yep,
Black, right?
exactly. Everybody
Maybe
needs a basic black. It
yeah,
always
basic
works, you
black.
know.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so Zara finished her internship, and before she left, you know, when I started my career, I had, you know, I worked, and at some point I worked for a company here in New York. I don't want to say the name, but you know, I worked part-time while, you know, being, actually I worked full-time while being an intern and all of that. And I had saved enough money to buy one other suit, famous brand, you know, I don't want to cite, but a very famous brand.
We're not
And I
getting paid
bought
to
it.
cite. Yeah.
Exactly, they're not paying us. I'm not giving free ads. But you know, their suits were so exquisite, so damn expensive. And I remember I bought it 80% off, you know, and then I had the
That's a
store
good deal.
the staff reduction. So I think I paid it like 90% off almost. The jacket came, I think, at
Girl.
60. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
really, really good. Real good. Really, really nice.
Yeah.
And so, and at the time I was really tiny, you know, not skinny, but at the time I was really tiny. I was a 00.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Now
And
you're
so I
like
had to have it resized. And
living.
Zara was my intern. She was very skinny. So I before she left, the suit was really good. I wore it maybe a year. Before she left, I gave her my suit with the pants and the jacket tailored, beautiful, you know, fabric and all of that. And she was so happy. And then, you know, she went back to Mali from New York. And then a month later, I received a message on my WhatsApp, like in 2017. And she sends me this picture of herself at a great conference, regional conference, wearing the suit, and it fits her so well. She's like, really, look at that, da, da, da. And I'm like, this is beautiful. This stayed in the back of my head, you know. And you know, when you know where you come from, you know where you're going. I never forgot where I come from, and I know how difficult this was for me. And, you know, very often when people are in position of, I say power, because for me, power is the possibility to do what you want to do, you know, the capacity to take action on whatever you want to do, and the power to say no, you know. I think this is one of the greatest power you can have, you know, setting boundaries, saying no, and this is power. And power is not political, I mean, whatever, you know, but internal power is. And so I felt that I had reached this, not fully, but I feel that I'm on my journey there, where I feel comfortable. If I tell you yes, I say yes. If I say no, it's no. And so I wanted to do something, you know, for the young person that I was, younger, for Verlaine, who was, you know, 15, 18, not knowing where she was going, or, you know, Verlaine, who was 21, looking for a job, not knowing who to talk to, Verlaine, who was 20, 23, trying to buy a suit, not having the money to do so, Verlaine being 25, 26, encountering all of those barriers around herself, trying to thrive. And Verlaine now, who has the possibility to do something. So that's why I launched Zahara Stream. And of course, my experience with Zahara stayed in the back of my head. So it made sense that at first I wanted to call it Verlaine Stream, but I was like, I'm not self-centered to call it by my name. It's not my dream. I don't want to call it my dream.
Yeah.
Because it's a universal dream. Yeah.
You reminded me of, I'll share this story. When I was moving to Rwanda, I used to live in Toronto. So when I was moving to Rwanda after my undergrad, an aunt of mine was like, we have to go and buy you like your starter kit. I didn't really understand what she meant. She was like, you need, you're moving, you're going to get a job. You don't know where you're going to work. You don't, but there's some basics you have to have. So she bought me my first suit, like full jacket and whatever, and pants, and a bag, like a handbag that was a big handbag that could put in files. And she's like, you need a big handbag so you can put in files and stuff like that. So to this day, I always have big handbags for the office, work bag. I never thought of it that way, but I wore that suit. Okay, I wore it for like 5 years.
You see, that's
okay. I'm just very happy that I was still the same weight after for 5 years. But yeah, you're right. Everybody needs like a starter's kit. Even you know what? It's even confidence boosting because now you feel like you belong. You fit in. So how does somebody donate a jacket to Zahara's Dream?
Thank you so much. So I'm actually now working on the process, but this is going to come up soon, and I'm hoping that to share that information with you soon. But now the Power Jacket donation is in work. But other than that, we have 4 pillars on which we're focusing. Of course, opportunity, as I mentioned, opportunity. I mean, talent is everywhere. I've had the chance and blessed to have traveled throughout Africa, and even in very difficult situations, South Sudan, Somalia, the Sahel, and meeting young women my age and I have so much compassion. It's just my nature. I have so much love inside, and when I meet sisters in difficult situations, and very often they have so much talent. And I know that there's nothing that makes me better than them. It's just the situation, opportunity, access, be wherever you're born, and then whatever happens around you. And you have no control about that, And from my experience on that, I wanted to build a platform, something where young women, regardless of where she comes from, regardless of her background, regardless of her socioeconomic status, could have access to opportunities. For me, talent is universal and opportunity is very limited. And then you have the gatekeepers around opportunities are trying to make sure that only a certain crowd gets those opportunities. That's my experience. And so from that, I wanted to build a place where, you can come, share opportunities, and also take them. It's very important as women that we recognize that we can take opportunities, that we deserve it, that it's not just the person next door, it's you too. The second one is on confidence. You talked about confidence. Confidence is very important. And I had a lot of confidence when I was a child. I was a badass, I have to say. I have 4 brothers. Yeah. So I had to measure up, as we say. I played soccer and never felt scared, always, they'll be like, all right, get the ball, run. And, you run, you're like, yep, I get it. And all that. But then you grow up. And the world is like, oh no, you're a girl, you can't do that, and you can't. And so that decreases your confidence, I mean, that was my experience. You get your confidence down. You're like, oh, I can't do that, or I can say that, oh, don't be too loud, or don't say that. And even work environment, at some point, it was very difficult. And my confidence did take a hit. And I had to build it back up. I had to remind myself who I was and what I was standing for and all of that. So confidence is very important, and the world will continue to try to disempower us, as women, and particularly young women. And this is not just men, I don't want the discussion to be like, oh, it's the patriarchy. Yeah, patriarchy, but it's not just men. I've had on my journey, my father, my first feminist, my first advocate who never disempowered me. And you have women who I call system maintenance experts. They will come and disempower you because in their mind, a woman shouldn't be doing this. And actually, I was just having a discussion yesterday with one of our sisters from Nigeria. She was telling me, in my culture, in my tribe, it's the women who keep us from advancing, because they're the ones who nurture early on to boys and girls that girls do that and boys don't do that, accept pain. You should take the beating because you were wrong, etc., etc. So I'm a strong advocate against that, and I think confidence is key for you to be, you know, and do great and be you powerfully. And that's what we have, you know. Actually, in a few hours we'll have the Be You Powerfully talk. That's something that I'm hosting every Saturday. It's because I used to be scared to be powerful. I used to be scared to be a young, powerful woman because of, you know, what would people think? Ah, who the fuck does she think she is? Or things like that, because that's how the world shapes you. And I was like, no, I am full. I'm full of love. I'm full of compassion. I'm full of dreams. I'm full. And so I need to be myself powerfully. I can't be myself half. And so that's why we're hosting those Be You Powerfully, to help other young women to learn and appreciate and embrace being powerful. You know, you don't have to be in a position of power. You don't have to have a title to be powerful. Just being you, saying yes when you mean yes, and saying no when you mean no, is being powerful. So those are the three others besides the power jacket, but we'll share the power jackets.
On the women who don't support women, of course, the Albright quote, but I really think it stems from power issues, access to power. We have been taught as women and as Black people that there's only room for one. So we think that if we mentor somebody coming up, that they will take over, instead of saying if we mentor somebody coming up, there's more of us at the table. So I think that that's something that needs to change with our generation, and I think we're doing that. We're doing that right here with Makers, with Zahara's Dream on IG Live. That's really what we're trying to do. I love everything you're trying to do. The opportunity, the role models, confidence, power jacket. It's really so amazing. Do you want us to take some questions?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, with pleasure. Yeah.
Okay, there's a question here. I'm just going to read it. I grew up in the US and the USA and noticed there were certain group of ethnicities that participated in group investing, such as Indians, Koreans, and Ethiopians. However, it seems to be a foreign concept and almost taboo for Africans on and off the continent. What do you think about group investing?
Yeah, thank you so much. I love that question. It's such a great question. Because there's so many layers. Who asked it?
Her name is Carol.
Carol, thank you so much, Carol. That's such a great question because it actually entails many layers. The first one is, of course, obviously financing. You know, how do we come together for financing, and, you know, of course, financial freedom, economic and financial freedom. And the second one, which I think is the core and the foundation of what group investing is community, you know. And of course, I'm an avid historical reader. I actually have a BA in history. And, you know, when you look at the civil rights movements and the anti-abolitionist movements in the US back in the 19th century, around 1870s, after the Civil War, all the way to the 1890s, and then unfortunately it kind of slowed down after that. But at least between these 20 years after the Civil War in the 1870s and 1890s, African Americans recognized the power of community, of coming together, because unfortunately, as we know from history, there were no institutions serving them. You know, they were former slaves, just freed from slavery a few years before. So there were no banks, there were no institutions, no insurance, health insurance. And you still had this mentality of brutalizing people. You know, you still had bounty hunters. And I mean, your life was just not safe. I'm a Black woman in the US now, and I feel okay, safe, but not 100%. Now imagine just after slavery, and, you know, it just must have been awful. So looking at that, looking at this 20 decades of very proactive anti-abolitionist movement, and looking at the core of unity and the strong sense of community within the African American community here in the US, there was a strong sense of self-determination, of improvement, both, of course, political. There is a strong lobby and effort to make sure that African Americans could vote, and the discussion is even more important now as we speak. The elections are coming up in November in this country, but even more so on financial independence. So you had organizations, group, what they called clubs at the time, organizing to create banks, you know. And that's how, for instance, one of the first African American women became the head of a bank, was through community organization organizing, you know, and she used to do bookkeeping for her previous I don't even know if you can call that bosses, but the white people she used to work for. So she had the knowledge and strategies on how to organize financial independence and to provide services for her community. So looking at that, we understand from the historical perspective that it is key for communities that have been historically known to be marginalized and disempowered to come together. And I think this strong sense of coming together at both community and financial level at the time is even more important now, because as we know, there has been setbacks. You know, there's a strong disempowerment culture in this country. We see it now with the Black Lives Matter movement. There has been a transformation, but not a positive one. You know, we moved to the civil rights movements in the 60s. Martin Luther King, I was just mentioning him before, of course, Malcolm X, and all those people who advocated for Black self-sustenance, you know. And you agree or you disagree, Malcolm X had said we will not be able to engage with the white community unless we were strong ourselves. And I'm not advocating for any, you know, white or Black, etc. As I said, I believe only in human race. But I think it's very important to do community organizing. You know, community organizing is key. So to answer your question, Carol, when it comes to now why aren't we together, it comes back to what our sister Diane has just mentioned. It's a zero-sum game mentality, and we need to move away from that. And that's also why I founded Zahara Stream, for instance, to make sure that sisterhood and love and compassion and understanding that power can be stretched, you know. And it's very simple. For you to understand that, you just have to look at the law of physics. So in the universe stretches, you know. Time, we talked about time at the beginning. Time is neutral. The universe stretches. Nothing is set, you know. There's no, oh my God, if I get into this box, if I get it, she doesn't get it. If she gets it, I don't get it. We need to break away from this mentality. So to answer your question, great question. This is urgent, community organizing for financial independence. But to be able to get there, we need to move away from the zero-sum game that if my brother gets it, I don't get it. Because this is also, unfortunately, one of the legacies, one of the negative, nasty legacies of slavery and colonization, thinking that, you know, only Uncle Tom gets into the master's house and all of us are in the field. There's no more field. The prison is in our mind. There are systemic and structural issues, but we need to break free in our mind. And I'm on a journey for self-consciousness, breaking free from all of that, even in my work, day to day. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I think you are like the definition of sisterhood and community. And I think you, whenever we chat, you would say, hi, sister, even in the larger group, hi, sisters, we need to do this, sisters, we need to do that. And it really does make you feel like you're a family and that you need to, like, if she's doing it, you need to step up your game. And I do remember watching the Malcolm X documentary recently on Netflix. And the person who was like his idol, what was his name? The Sheikh.
Oh yeah,
right.
Muhammad,
yeah, Elijah Muhammad
yes.
was. I mean, they owned everything, right? They owned the blocks that they lived on, the apartments, the, I don't know, dry cleaners, da da da. We need to get into the same mentality, and I like the fact that you said it's really a prison of the mind. We need to support each other as a sisterhood, as a community. Is the only way we're going to move forward, which is why I really appreciate all of the initiatives that are happening on the continent, whether it's AULIN, whether it's AFTRA. We have to think of free movement of people and goods, of ideas. How can we transact with each other? And it's not saying that non-Africans are not welcome. This is not a race issue. We're just trying to come up and really level the playing field amongst all of us as women, as Black people, as Africans. And I think your initiative, whether it is AULIN, whether it is Zahara's Dream, is really trying to do that on a day-to-day basis. And I really want to say thank you because I know it's not easy. I know you have a lot on your plate, but you do it because you see the need and you say, I was given the opportunity, so I have to continue and open the door for others. Yeah,
no, absolutely, my sister, absolutely. And that's the only way forward. You know, the first prison is really our mind. And you know, just to close on the if I see that, you know, of course you're always helping, but if you see that someone doesn't get it, and you know, you have to move forward. You can't. You have to move forward with the people who do get it, and then you build that up. And hopefully, those who don't get that will join at some point. You know, but our job is to make that happen, and then the rest, you know, it's yeah.
Our job is to make sure representation matters. Make sure we are doing what needs to be represented, right? We can't be given opportunities and then not step up to the plate,
Exactly.
as hard as they may be sometimes.
Yeah.
I just want to give the audience some chances to ask some questions. I'll give you guys a couple minutes, and as we do that, maybe Verlaine can just tell us about how is the opportunity only for young African women? Is it on the continent? Is it for young African women anywhere? Is it only for African women? First of all, how do you join the network?
Yeah.
How do, maybe I as an employer, how do I give opportunities to younger people? Just how does that work, right? Yeah, so how do I, how does it work? Yeah.
Thank you, my sister. Yeah, no, absolutely. So Zahara's dream, Zahara's heart and person is African. You know, I'm an African, young African woman. My mom's African, my dad's African, their parents, you know, everyone.
Tell everybody where you're from. You're Mauritius and
where? Yes, I'm Mauritius and Congo. You know, it's my parents decided, Brazzaville. They decided to do AU integration.
Yeah, I know. Right?
So they did get the memo.
I know.
But Zahara's dream, of course, Zahara is an African young woman. You know, her name is African and she's African. However, Zahara's dream is a global initiative. And the reason why is I very quickly realized, even when I did the call for participation within Zahara's dream, that, you know, we share common denominators. You know, I mentioned it within Africa when I would meet sisters from, you know, different countries, etc. But even here in the US, you know, we share the common denominator to be able to live out our dreams, you know, to be able to do and be the highest version of ourselves, you know, beyond external barriers or whatever the world wants us to be. And that doesn't change if you're going to Brazil, because we have some of our mentees and members who are from Brazil. It doesn't change if you're going to Germany. It doesn't change, you know. And what I have realized is that, you know, we all share common denominators, you know, and this common denominator is the one I just shared. And so looking at that, and I'm based in New York, you know, and I lived here for a long time now, and I know the struggle of young women here, may they be white, Latino, Asian, African Americans. And so I really wanted to be intentional in making this initiative universal and global, because we really can connect. And so the way that you can join, you can go on the website, zaharasdream.com. Let me just make quickly. You can go on the website and you see there's a join now.
Oh, join now. Perfect.
So you can just click and then you'll be able to join the platform. But really what this message is that we're all together, you know, and when you go, we have an application. When you click join now on the website, you'll be able to access the app. What we realized just this morning, I was just connecting to quickly check, and I saw, for instance, we have, you know, this sisterhood. I talk about sisterhood so much because it changed my life, you know, so it's on so many levels. And this morning I connect and I see this young woman from Brazil. She's white, blonde hair, couldn't, you know, I'm saying that for the simple purpose that she shares, you know, she's working in law, and she came across an opportunity that partners with, you know, Brazil, between Brazil and, you know, Africans. And we know the challenges that Brazil has even with its Black population. And so she comes on the platforms and shares this message of opportunity with other sisters, somewhere in Africa, somewhere in the US, somewhere in Europe. And she's like, sisters, this is an opportunity. But having this young white Brazilian woman sharing opportunities with young women in Nigeria, in Kenya, in Germany, in the US, and calling them sister, because in the end, the color of our skins and our background are just, you know, just really thin layers. You know, what really matters is what's within. So I think that's what Zahara's dream is about. It's about finding common denominators. It's about sisterhood. It's about coming together and understanding that I am you. And I didn't get the chance to go back to Liz, but Liz is an American woman. She's a white American woman, and she's our sister. You know, she's in AWLN. And, you know, when I launched, before I actually launched Zahara's dream, I was about to launch it, She sent me this invitation in February. She was like, oh, V, there's this thing. Diane von Furstenberg is doing something here in New York. It's a walk at the High Line. Just come. And so I was like, all right. And so I show up, and Liz is there with a camera, you know, and again, that's where you recognize your sister skippers. She has a camera, and so she's taking shots. So actually, one of the main pictures of Zahara's dream was taken by Liz's camera. She's in the picture, so she didn't take the picture, but she wore the shirt. I had designed shirts. She comes up with a shirt, and she comes up with a camera, and these opportunities, you know. And I think this is what it's about. And she's not an African. Now she's African, you know. Her name is Kitoyi. I don't know if I can share that.
Married to an African. Liz is our sister either way, but yes.
So sorry, Liz. I'm pulling your name out.
Really put her on blast. Liz, we'll have you next. You'll be on the show. Okay.
But what I mean is that Zahara's dream is really about that. And I think it comes also from my own experience. You know, my mother is from Mauritius. She's Indian from Mauritius, you know, background. And it was difficult for her, you know, within also my dad's family, because, you know, we have our own issues on the South-South cooperation, you know. So knowing her own experience, you know, of, because, you know, when you've suffered exclusion, and that's what I was talking about, being able to heal that. When you suffer from exclusion, you tend to exclude others, you know, because it's difficult. Others who don't look like you. And, you know, my mom, you know, she went through her stuff, and I want to be intentional in making sure that young women who join Zahara's dream, who join the journey, who join the you know, the community, feel welcome, and that they don't feel excluded because they don't have the right skin color, or they don't have the right accent, or they don't have the right hair, they don't have the right, all of that doesn't matter. You know, we'll all die one day, and none of this will mean anything. The only thing that will mean is how we positively impacted others' lives.
That's right. Absolutely. Well, my dear, I mean, I could talk, you know, we could be on the phone forever. I could talk to you forever. I know time is not on our side usually, especially when we're doing important work. I know you have to get to your live. You have a live with Zahara's Dream shortly. We didn't even get to like the juicy stuff. Like, do you have time to sleep? But do you have time to date? I don't know. People have to tune in next time.
Part 2.
You know? Yeah, you have to tune in next time for that. But this has been a great way to start the day for myself and for the viewers. I'm so happy you were able to join us. Thank you for all of you are an inspiration, and I want you to know that. I'm very blessed to have you in my life and to call you my sister.
Oh, so, thank you so much. It's reciprocal. And even more so because I'm like, oh my God, I have a sister in the private sector. Because, you know, you're my role model. I don't have, you know, you're my first sister in business. You're my role model.
Thank you. I hope I make it to the IPO.
Pray you will. You pray God. You will today, Saturday.
Pray for me. Well, thank you so much. Everybody check out Zahara's Dreams. I'll post something on Maker's Blueprint shortly about it. Of course, this will be up for everybody to watch again. Thank you. Have a fabulous weekend, and count me as a supporter of Zahara's Dreams.
Thank you so much. I will follow up on opportunity. And I know I have other things in the pipeline that we discussed. I need to, it's been crazy. I'm so sorry, my sister. I haven't had the chance to look at but you know what I'm talking about. I will get back to that.
Don't worry. I know. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dee. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Bye.